Welcome to another episode of the Online Prosperity Experience podcast. You're about to hear your host, Prosper Taravinga's powerful digital marketing strategies and actionable tactics that you can use right now. Prosper has helped more than 50,000 people from over 10 countries to create meaningful businesses that are profitable and enjoyable. Listen to this podcast so that you too can build your own business with less stress and overwhelm. Let's get started.
In this episode, I want you to stop making excuses for who you are or where you are. Because let me tell you something. Excuses only sound best to the man or woman who's actually telling them. Now, I can understand you might not be confident or certain what you're doing right now matters. Let me tell you something. Every single thing matters. What you do matters. Everything. The big stuff, the way you show up on your social media, the way your website is presented, everything matters. Even the annoying stuff. And it matters that you're wasting time. It matters that you're being creative. It matters that you're connecting with people that are supposed to be your audience. It matters that you're out there networking each and every single day. It matters that you're creating campaigns within your business. It matters that you are not spending your days isolated by yourself on a computer in a dark room, hoping that something magical is going to happen with the mediocre stuff you're putting out there. What you do matters. How you do everything is how you do anything. You know, it matters because achieving your goals matter. All right. We can't pick and choose what matters in life. We can't pick and choose which minute or which second we can breathe just because we feel lazy. Every breath matters. Every second matters. Even when you're sitting on the toilet right now, it matters because if you're not creating space within your body or excreting all that, toxins, they might come back as, to hurt your organs or something like that. So you want to make sure that you're eliminating around you things that don't matter, and eliminating excuses is the pathway that takes you there. Like I said earlier on, excuses sound best only to the person that's telling them. When things like, oh, sorry, sir, the dog ate my homework. For you, it sounds like, oh my God, I've just, told him something that he's going to believe. But the teacher is going to be like, you know what? You're not the first person to tell me this. You're not the first person to come up with such a lame excuse. You might high five your mates and everything else, but it's still lame. We've heard it before. So you want to eliminate excuses on your path to create a business that's profitable and enjoyable. And it's the same path that every other great achiever has followed. Who is your actual hero? I mean, take a moment to think of the people that you think have done well with their lives or they've achieved all that they set out to achieve. Is it Richard Branson? Is it Tony Robbins? Is it Oprah Winfrey? Is it Elon Musk? Is it Mark Zuckerberg? Is it Bill Gates? Who is your hero? If you really sit down and look at their biographies or where they started or who they have become, they also started from mediocre or humble beginnings, but they didn't let excuses get to them. There's a lot of stuff that happens in our lives, and we might think, oh, just because I've been dealt a certain way, or I was born a certain person, or because of who I was or how I was treated by my parents, all of that stuff. Let me tell you something. I'm the founder of Live Long Digital, where we actually help businesses explode in growth using digital marketing strategies. I didn't start off like this. I had 0 clients when I started off, and now I'm passionate helping coaches and consultants like yourself and even small business owners, because they are the lifeblood of this country and the economy. Yes, we might have big companies like Coles, Woolworths, and everything else, and they've got higher people that they are employing, etc., etc. But those guys get bailed out when hard times come. Those companies get bailed out by the government. Who bails out the small business? Who bails out the small business? And that's the reason why I'm passionate about helping coaches and consultants and small business owners grow their business, because I know what it's like to come from nothing. You see, I was born in a small town in Zimbabwe in Africa, and growing up, life was pretty tough. I didn't have a lot of money or hope, and I didn't think I was going to amount to anything. And there was no one to look up to, or we didn't even have any role models to inspire us in order for us to expand our horizons of what could be possible. But mere chance happened when I was 13. A bright-eyed Australian teacher came to work at my school, and she showed me, that there was life past our borders. She told me that how Australia was and how much of an incredible place it was, and the different animals that you have here that are unique to the rest of the world. That actually then created a spark inside of me that I wanted to, come and experience this by myself. You know what I mean? She taught me that there was a whole other world outside of my little town that I was used to. A world of infinite possibilities where people who dream big and had the courage to actually follow their dreams would come here and thrive. And for the rest of my time in school, I worked my butt off just to learn as much as I could. And a few years later, I ended up in Australia. I didn't offer any excuses. I didn't try and wiggle myself out just because there were so many times that I could have stopped, or I could have cried foul or pleaded to racism. I didn't stop. I just kept going and going and going. And now you and me are about to get into a partnership because I want to make your business profitable and enjoyable. Can you imagine if Steve Jobs gave into excuses and decided, I've been fired from Apple, I'm not going to do anything about this? Would you have this iPhone you're listening this podcast from? Would we even have the term podcast? Because podcast was an invention that came out of the iPod. You know that thing that gives you 1,000 songs in your pocket? Imagine if Steve Jobs gave up just because he was adopted or whatever his story is. Imagine if that could have happened. People like Sigmund Freud. He was booed off the stage the first time that he presented his theories to a group of scientists in Europe. Now the whole psychology industrial complex listens and follows the Freud methodology. And he went on to win the Gautier Award in his work in psychology. Imagine if Winston Churchill, decided when he failed his 6th grade and lost every public election, but he ran until he was elected Prime Minister of England, and he was at the age of 62. Who else was an old person, who didn't give up? Colonel Sanders. Kentucky Fried Chicken. He was about 70 when he got the chance. People like Albert Einstein. He didn't speak until he was 4 years old. And he couldn't even read basic words until he was about 7. If he was brought up in a world like ours right now, they would have thought he's got autism or some sort of dyslexia or some learning disability. And what? They would relegate him towards the slow kids in school, and I don't know what would have happened to him. But he eventually revolutionized physics and his theory of relativity. He didn't let any of that stop him. Right now, you're probably driving in your car, and you're probably, you don't even have to worry about how to get from A to B, because people like Henry Ford never gave up. He failed at farming. What's like so difficult about just putting seeds inside of soil and watering them and just tending to them up until they yield crops? He failed at that. He also failed at being an apprentice. And as a mechanist, he failed at all of that, and then he went bankrupt. I think it was 5 times that he claimed bankruptcy. But guess what he did? He modernized mass production. And now we're working in factories. We know that there's a factory line or a conveyor belt or whatever it is, even though it's an antiquated method of production. But people like Henry Ford never gave up. Even Van Gogh. He only sold 1 painting in his entire life. But right now, he's the most celebrated painter in contemporary history and art. And the person who bought the Van Gogh painting was his friend's sister, and it was only for about $50. But he painted over 800 masterpieces, 7 of which are worth over 1 billion, just put together. So think about it. If you leave excuse free, you actually open up channels that you never thought were possible in your life. Living excuse free is about taking responsibility and ownership of every aspect of your life. It's about creating a future that you're actually proud of. You might be asking yourself, I'm a coach or a consultant, and what I'm trying to put out there, it hasn't been done before. Be the first. Be the first to put it out there, and let that be the thing that changes the dynamics of your family. What if it hasn't been done before? Be the first. So what if you get it wrong a few times? Reinvent yourself. Rome was never built in one day. All of these people that I mentioned prior, they tried and tried and tried, and they keep going. They're not hitting into excuses. What if you don't have a college degree? Well, be curious and learn more. Excuses sound best to the man or woman that is actually saying those things. So what if nobody believes in you? You don't need approval for success. You don't need anyone to come and knock on your house's door. Oh, yep, it's your turn to be successful right now. You're not going to need any approval to be successful. What if it gets hard? All big things require pain and loss. Even for a kid to be born, there's pain that is involved in that whole giving birth process. So whatever you're going to attempt and try and put out there, you have to actually put in the work and feel the pain. Because like I said, I jumped on a plane to Melbourne with nothing but a backpack full of hopes and dreams for the future. I didn't even know that this was going to happen in my life. And I'm not going to lie, it was tough at first. I was so far away from my family and friends, and I struggled to find regular work or even pay my bills. Heck, I was even evicted from my apartment in Richmond. I was at my lowest point, but I never gave up. I never gave in to any excuses at all. And I kept remembering the advice that I got from that Australian teacher. As long as you're willing to work hard, there's always hope. I knew I would succeed. I just had to roll up my sleeves and take opportunity when it presented itself. And then what I call my big break came. And let me tell you something. You can never connect the dots looking forwards. You can always connect them looking backwards. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I remember this clearly, and I was so bored. And one of my roommates at that time, called me and is like, hey, what are you doing, Prosper? And I'm like, I'm just chilling at home. And he's like, can you meet me in the city? My manager wants to, he's looking for a model, somebody who can stand in because the guy who was supposed to show up didn't show up. Little did I know that was going to be my break, Because after this chance modeling gig that was set up by one of my roommates, I actually then ended up looking into it a little bit further because I liked it so much. I got there and I was friendly with the photographer, and he's like, hey, you're a natural. And I'm like, oh, really? And I kept looking for things like that. And then I was signed by a modeling company. And I went on to become one of the most recognized faces, in the Melbourne modeling scene. And before I knew it, I was brushing shoulders with A-listers and celebrities and on VIP parties. And many of the models I met, they were now starting to look for a way to increase their online presence which I obviously had some sort of interest in. And then I started investigating how this could be done. So I threw myself in a line of work, which ended up becoming digital marketing because, yeah, how else can you, put out a personal brand out there? So I started reading everything on digital marketing that I could get my hands on. So that's when I began working with some small businesses and I was helping them achieve massive growth using my newfound knowledge. How was I doing this? I was connecting them to other models that were also looking for exposure, and both would then help each other market their their new products or their clothing lines or things like that. And word started getting around, and before long I was hired by larger companies to expand on their operations. And I've helped ever since then coaches and consultants, and my claim to fame is getting people from $200,000 to $2 million in revenue. And there's proof and testimonials that you can find on my pages, as you go there. And fast forward today, I think I've partnered with more than 450 business, and I now have an entire team of battle-hardened marketing experts that are working for me. I've been nominated for, multiple awards, including Entrepreneur of the Year, also Network of the Year in 2020, in one of the most difficult years in our business history. And we've since been nominated and won an award for being Marketing Agency of the Year. I've even been on a show by Carl Stefanovic called This Time Next Year. But all of this pales in comparison to the success that I've actually achieved for my clients. Most of them have gone, from creating nothing to creating legacies for themselves. I mean, all those testimonials are on our page. You might be asking yourself, maybe I'm not like you. So what if you get hurt, or what if people don't like what it is that I'm selling? That's the price of boldness. So what if you're underappreciated? Ego would only make you complacent. So what if everything you thought was right turns out to be wrong? You make up your own rules. So what if the experts disagree with you? Experts might be wrong. All the gurus out there, they might be wrong. Some of my students and some of my clients are earning more than the other gurus out there. You can prove that. So what if you give more than you get? Let me tell you something. You get paid in direct proportion, you get paid in direct proportion to the value that you bring to the marketplace. So what? So what? So what? The rest of the what ifs are just excuses, bro. Right? And like I said, excuses sound best to the person that is saying them. You have to look within yourself and challenge all the demons that hold you back from being successful. You never rise to be a champion until you look past the fear or the failure and the excuses that are holding you back. And let me tell you something. That starts with you believing that you can be amazing regardless of who you are or where you are in life right now. At the end of the day, you might think that I look a certain way, or I sound a certain way, or I might not be able to do certain things, but look at how many people have actually beaten the odds. So what's your excuse? Because eliminating excuses is important, because your future is important. Your goals matter. Your values matter. You being a representative of your family that has escaped poverty matters. Because if only you get the future that you work for, then what you work for right now is pretty important, isn't it? You probably don't want to screw that up. You owe it to yourself to be, do, and have everything that you possibly can. Have you ever walked past a tree that is complaining and saying, "Oh, I don't like where I was planted. I'm probably not going to grow. I'm going to grow into a bonsai tree. Even if I'm an oak, I'm just going to grow up into the littlest possible effort that I can." But why is it that human beings do that? Why would you want to steal from your future today when you're supposed to get up and pick up a book and read so that you can maybe be giving transformational information later, so you can be consulting to bigger firms later, so you could be training people in either sales or mindset, so you could be passing on your expertise to people that might need you? I'm going to ask you a question. Who are you? Who do you think you are, letting other people go without the information that you have? What if your information is going to help other people be, do, and have a happier existence? Who are you to deny people of that? Because your decisions lead to your destiny. Do you believe that? You should, because it's true. And sooner or later, what you do and who you really are determines what you actually and ultimately achieve. But what does that really mean? Let's go a little bit practical about this. Let's talk about how much sleep you really need and how a decision like that impacts your results. How many hours of sleep do you actually have every single day? Like I mentioned earlier on, guys, everything you do matters, right? Because if you get up early, getting up earlier means you have more time to conquer the world. If you get up at 5, when everybody else gets up at 8, you are 3 hours ahead of the world. And if you've done everything that you need to do in that particular day, heck, you can go back to sleep. So getting up a little bit earlier means you've got extra time to conquer the world. Simply just getting up 3 or 1 hour earlier. Let's work with 1 hour here because there's a bit of math involved. 1 hour earlier in a day for about 50 years, it equates to an extra 2,281 business days, or 6.25 years of conquest. Now, can you believe that you have over 6 years that you could actually put to good use, ahead of your competition, who's probably just waking up a little bit later and not caring about, their sleep pattern? You win more when you fight more. Okay? Because your little daily decisions and the excuses that you make, they add up over time. I read about 4 hours a day, and the way I do that is not by sitting down for a 4-hour block. No. I sit down and I carve out 30-minute sections out of my day. And if I do 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of those, soon it adds up. And then that culminates into 3 or 4 hours of reading each and every day. Now, can you compare me to somebody else who's probably just maybe thinking of reading 20 minutes or 2 pages a day? I cover much more mileage. So those little decisions, excuses that you make, they add up over time. I know right now you might know something about compounding interest. Let me tell you something about compounding interest. Those that know about it, they earn it. Those that don't know about it, they pay it. Now, would you rather be earning compound interest over your daily decisions, or would you rather be paying compound interest because of the excuses that you're putting out there? Well, it's easy to say that working hard is important, doing everything, being the boss of busy is what you want. We all know that, right? But just because you say the words doesn't mean you're doing the right thing or you're doing the doing part. Because your future is about the decisions that you make, not the ideas that you have. Because ideas are a dime a dozen, bruh. It's casual rather than casual. All right? You actually have a say in what you actually achieve. You can determine your destination. It's not written in stone. You can change it right now by getting up early, doing the right things, and cutting out excuses. Because we all want that maybe extra 6.25 years of conquest that I calculated earlier. You must be proud because, that was good mathematics, wasn't it? All right? But when we have a zillion, maybe minute-by-minute considerations just to decide whether you want to stay in bed, get up, and conquer, most of us choose comfort. And it seems small at the time. After all, it's just an hour. In an hour, you've got 60 minutes. In that 60 minutes, you can carve out 30-minute blocks that you can read and educate yourself. but the results are life-changing. Literally, man. This podcast is a 30-minute podcast brought to you by me having woken up a little bit earlier, and I read for about a couple of hours, and I can just sit down here and talk. Can you imagine if you can start creating content on demand? Not receiving content on demand, consuming. No, creating on demand. Where you can just sit back and say, oh, my kids have just gone out right now. I've got a 30-minute window. Why don't I create a podcast? Because the decisions that you make hundreds of times a day will build what your future becomes. You're probably listening to this in 2048 or in 2030 or in 2050 or whatever time in the future. Let me tell you something. It's 12:30 on the 21st of December 2021 when I created this episode. But guess what? You're still getting the value way into the future, something I did once and I froze time. So the decisions that you make hundreds of times a day build your future because they all count. Right now, I froze this bit of time and it will live in perpetual eternity unless they switch off the internet, which they won't. So whatever you are going to be doing, whatever you're going to be creating can actually pay you over and over and over and over and over again. This is an investment. So how can you change your future today? What can you do right this moment that will change your future? Because it's a mindset. Just look at this. You're listening to this podcast. I told you when I created it. And look at the time right now. Look at the date. It's in the future because obviously you're not listening to it right now as I created. I know that's impossible. So I've bought my future. I'm buying my future right now sitting here on this podcast. It's a mindset. It's a very edgy mindset. And if you start thinking about that, whatever you're doing right now could actually pay you in the future, bro. You know what it means? You know what it means? You want to choose to be positive when things are scary. You fight to win, even when you just, got wind hooked out of you. You're honest, even if it means you will be embarrassed. Take the time to learn new skills, new talents, new ideas when it's easier to just be yourself or sleep in. Invest in personal inspiration instead of letting anxiety drive your decisions. As we speak right now, there are so much going on about the COVID virus, etc., etc. But I'm not letting that affect me. You hear the energy. Come on, feel this energy. This energy is amazing, man. I worked for this. So the importance of eliminating excuses is just understanding that the outcome of any individual decision that you're going to make right now would have future repercussions. So being positive 20 times a day for 15 years, that's like 109,500 opportunities for you to create a happier future. Just win one more time per year could actually mean 30 amazing, mind-blowing successes over a lifetime. Just telling the truth one more time each day gives you 365 more reasons of, throughout the year to trust yourself. Reading one new book per week for 22 years equates to 1,144 new ideas from the smartest minds in the world. You could also look at that as, say, watching Netflix or watching Amazon Prime and maybe buying mindless stuff on Amazon. It all comes back to you in the future. What do they say? One easy on the lips, heavy on the hips, or whatever it is. I don't know what that statement is. So creating 5 new meaningful, maybe in-person relationships per month over 35 years is an equivalent of 2,100 new people that you can count on who you can really help. So what are you doing today in order to create a future of possibility? A lot of small choices make a huge difference later on in life. Small hinges swing the widest doors. Could you do more today? Could you create more? Could you conquer more? Could you write more? Could you connect more? Could you be, do, and have more? Could you encourage people's dreams more today? Could you confirm your audience suspicions today? Could you help them throw rocks at their enemies today? Could you do anything outrageous? Could you make more money today? Could you get more leads today? Could you engage more today? Could you get on more calls today? Could you set up more appointments today? Could you be on the lookout for proof that the law of attraction has brought you this podcast at the right time so that you can get rid of your excuses? Possibly. Probably. You can bet on it. Here's what I wanted to say in the last 30 minutes. Stop making excuses. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, let's continue the conversation in the Live Long Digital community. Become a Live Long Digital community member today. This community is for ambitious entrepreneurs and small business owners with the drive to take control of the future of their businesses and achieve huge success without stress and overwhelm. As you heard, Prosper can help you by teaching you marketing strategies that work. So look no further than the Live Long Digital community of entrepreneurs and highly successful business owners. Join our community today. Find us on www.community.livelongdigital.com.au. Network with other driven entrepreneurs and find the expert guidance you need to take your business to the next level. www.community.livelongdigital.com.au